Shabbat Shalom, everybody. This is Rabbi Stephen, Rob Shmuel, Rashbi, yes, Rabbi Stephen Epstein, Rabbi Rob Shmuel Ben Yehoshua here with you with this week's Parsha, Vayigash. Vayigash, by gosh, yes, it is. Okay. So, hope you're doing well, and I hope you can see my yarmulke back there. Wearing a little bigger one so you can see it. A few years ago, somebody sent me a message on YouTube when I did one of my videos, and they're like, Rabbi, where's your yarmulke? So ever since then, I just kind of wanted, there it is, see it? Okay. And I'm not in my usual dressed up attire either. Got this shirt for Hanukkah. Thank you, Rachel, my wife, the Rebbitzin. Beautiful shirt. And, I just kind of like wearing it. We have this design actually, the sun and the moon up in our condo, and it's actually pretty cool. So I kind of like it. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're having a good holiday. We had a couple of visitors last week on our Friday night services. A couple of young ladies in high school that were doing an English report with one of their mothers. And, we kind of had a small crowd. And um, I had kind of a couple of ideas for sermons planned. And, somebody made a comment years ago, about how tough it must be coming up with a new idea every weekend, every Friday night to do a sermon. And, I had a couple of ideas, but I didn't really feel like they were things I wanted to talk about. I felt like I was repeating the same message. So I thought, well, we've got some visitors here. Why don't we, and I should do this more often, open it up to questions. Anybody have any questions? So the girl got out her notebook and asked some questions about Judaism, they being Christian and not familiar with a lot of Jewish practices and principles, but also for the report. What do you consider to be one of the more important aspects of Judaism? Humanity and accepting people, right? What are some of the tenets of Judaism? Well, in the Torah, it says don't murder only twice. That's right. Do not murder is only listed twice. Now, they talk about it and they talk about the consequences of willful manslaughter, but the commandment, do not kill, twice. Do not gossip. I've counted 8 times. So, what does that tell you about Judaism, right? So, et cetera, et cetera. And it promoted, and I like to do this. I like it when we have students or we have visitors. It promotes understanding. And that's an important thing. When you know people and when you hear about what their beliefs are, what their aspirations, their expectations, their hopes and dreams, it brings us together. And to me, that's very important. That's why for when we have our annual Hanukkah celebration, of course, the first people we invite are members from the Ontario Police Department. That agency has been very supportive of us. And back the blue, we want to show our appreciation. I mean, they're very good to us. They put a squad car, do they call them that anymore? A squad car in our parking lot to show that somebody might be there. They have a camera. They've really taken care of us, and it's a way for us to show our appreciation, as well as inviting members from the community, from the various city councils that surround the area. We want to get to know these people and show them that, we are part of your community. And again, that's a great way to foster understanding and kind of get to know people. And it's why, I've done my best to be a part of interfaith groups where applicable. I just received an email from a member of the local Interfaith Council, a woman who is part of the Church of Latter-day Saints, the Mormons, saying how they felt our pain with the tragedy in Bondi Beach. Is that how it's pronounced? In Australia, the horrible, tragic murder of 14, 15 people, of our people, just because we're Jews. So having that sympathy and that empathy and that compassion is what's going to lead to action so that people are more on guard and the more intolerant of intolerance. And that's really what it's all about. Okay, so speaking of intolerance, okay, like the way I segue into that, let's talk about Vayigash. So here we have kind of the climax of our drama with Joseph being sold to off away from home because of the jealousy of his brothers. And there he is in the household of Potiphar, one of the ministers of Pharaoh, for a couple of years. He's framed, he's set up, he's falsely accused and sent to prison, where he remains for 12 years. And it is through his ability of prophecy to interpret dreams that he is taken from the dungeon that he's at to interpret one of Pharaoh's tough dreams. And he's able to provide an interpretation. Now, remember, Pharaoh's wizards and ministers also gave him interpretations, but it didn't resonate. Pharaoh's like, yeah, well, no, it doesn't make sense. But Joseph comes up and he was on it. And he says, it's not me that's going to interpret. It's God who's going to give you the interpretation. And I'm going to speak and tell you what God's going to tell you. It resonated and it was the right interpretation. And thus Joseph becomes the viceroy, the second in command. Think about that. He's the second most powerful and important person in Egypt. And he has the 7 years of plenty, and now we're 2 years into the famine, and lo and behold, his brothers show up. So he puts them through a lot of different tests, wants to see who they are, what they've learned. Do they still resent him? Do they feel bad about the fact that they've lost their brother? And he is pleasantly, I don't know if surprised is the right word, but he sees through Judah's ability and the fact that the brothers are there, uh, asking him for mercy, and Judah's willingness to to exchange himself for Benjamin. Remember, Joseph set up Benjamin, put his goblet in his bag, and sent his men out to look and find it. And he's like, okay, so Benjamin is now going to be my slave forever. And, sorry about your father missing his other son, but that's the way it goes. And Judah approaches him and he asks permission. Now, Judah had a backbone. Kind of like to use another word, but this is public, right? Judah had the backbone to confront, and he confronted Pharaoh, or this viceroy of Pharaoh. He didn't know who he was, right? Joseph had gotten older. He was a kid. Now he's an adult. He's got a beard. He's dressed differently. He's speaking Egyptian. And he said to him, Judah confronted him and said, you put us through all this. We've come out. Yeah, it was a little tough, but you know what? We can't go home and tell our father that his now favorite son, that his other son is gone, is missing and he will never see him again. It will kill him. Take me instead. I'm bigger, I'm stronger, I'm more experienced. I will be more of an asset to you. Let Benjamin go home. And with this, Joseph just can't handle it. He just loses it. How many of and Joseph sees that they're sincere. He sends the other Egyptians out of the room. He reveals who he is. They weep on each other's shoulders. Now, I kind of this thing about my daughter. I've told you about all the crying I've done. So much is for toxic masculinity, but that's what they do in the Middle East. They're always falling on each other's shoulders and crying and weeping. So I guess it's okay, right, to be a man and to cry. But nevertheless, it's a big reunion, and Joseph says to them, don't feel bad about what you did. This was part of God's plan. I was here, it was for a purpose. I was able to use my influence to save the world, and now I want you all to come here. And what happens is that 70 souls go down to Egypt, go down because Israel, Canaan was a higher elevation, and the going down is kind of a metaphor for, the spiritual environment of Egypt being kind of pagan. But it is in Egypt that Israel thrives, and the Israelites go from 70 souls, right, that come down to 2, 3 million people, strong and healthy. And it's there that becomes the basis of this new religion of morality and ethics and one God. Okay. So it's really kind of a lesson. People do things to us, and we resent them. and we want vindication, we want revenge. Sometimes it pays to look at the larger picture and see the whole purpose that God is putting us in this situation. Not just to test us, but for us to develop our fortitude and to learn new skills and develop our spiritual and emotional growth so that we can be better people and we can lead the world to a better place. Okay? So let's have that lesson. Shabbat Shalom. Happy New Year. Happy holidays, whatever you're celebrating, Hanukkah, Christmas, Kwanzaa, Eid, whatever it is. Okay. And as always, thank you for listening.